McAlister, and I am class of 85, graduated in 85, which makes me by far the oldest person here. So I won't do my whole history. I will note I love the way we started this kickoff of events, sitting with students in their studio, and that this show is about materials, because of course that's, as artists, what we do. We have to make very hard decisions about what our materials are and why we're going to use them and what we want to say with them. And so while we are a jumbled group of alumni in here, that is a good common theme to start with. And the other thing I would say is about 2.5 weeks ago, I was up in Virginia and sitting in Russ Warren's studio before I had a speaking situation at an exhibition at a gallery there. And just sitting with this past professor of mine and talking about Picasso and materials, and he was showing me some materials I had never thought about. And what I loved about it is it was about materials, but it was also just this, once you are a Davidson person, you are backed by Davidson people always. And that sense of family and friendship is really wonderful. So it's great to be part of this exhibit and to be asked about it. My work is rooted in a love of land. I grew up on just playing. My playground was literally out the back door. I could go out the back door with my brother to a fallen chestnut forest. There were artifacts that could be found down by the river, Indian arrowheads, shards of pottery, that sort of thing. And I was taught at a very young age that the stories of the land are so important, and if we know the past of the land and take it into our present and digest it, that then we can speak and be informed into the future. So that's very much what my work is about. And I use a variety of media and approaches. I combine both when I would put together an exhibit, I would speak both in representational ways and in abstractive ways. On canvas, typically 2D, but at some point I started doing these paper cutout assemblages. Really from a practical standpoint, I had people just covered up in my house out west during the summer, and I had no capacity to have a private room and paint. And so I was like, well, while they're here, I can cut things out, and I've been gathering shapes forever. So it was a materials decision. Like I had an exhibit coming up at the University of Georgia, and I had these big walls, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna cover it with these big paper cutouts. And when Leah came to my studio, we talked about, bringing all these together into one piece. Certainly that's something art historically, where in a 2D situation, stacks of canvas, and it excited me, the idea of putting together these puzzle pieces and working on them. Clearly there is in the conversation a lot about land ethic and conservation and what's happening in our environment. These pieces here I collected from forest fires, charcoal, charred pieces of sticks, packed them in a backpack. They crumbled in my backpack, and then took them home, and I used those into almost all of my work, even the representational work. This piece here, there was a huge windstorm, a magnificent tree came down. I ran outside the next morning, I gathered up the branches, I templated. So most of my work begins out on the land, and it's very experiential in that way. And the idea to me is to create a sanctuary, to create a representation of what that sanctuary of the land is for me. So if this piece called Passage is about moving in and through nature and through, in particular, an uncut forest and a forested area, a place where actually there is a lot of history to the land. It was land that the Shoshone were on. So I have all these tangled things I'm thinking about and talking about. Also just the regenerative nature of nature and of the forest, that you have things dying at your feet that you're walking across at the same time, that they are sprouting up new around you. This is very springtime. Somebody pointed out when I spoke last week or the week before that it was such happy colors, which is like almost a crime in the art world, but it is, it's very spring-like at the time that I was working on this and thinking about it, and yeah.